should have told me, like about the service. It's like my mascara is probably running. I'm crying and singing and dancing, doing aerobics and crying. It's like, now I got to talk? Wow. Woo! All right. So I guess just to begin with, what I want to start with is just asking you a question. Is it me, or has like life ratcheted up a notch? Like, wow. Like, whoa. Like everyone you know is going through uncertainty, right? Like everyone you know, or you're going through some kind of uncertainty. And I think it's as though the universe is saying the grace period is now over. It's just that you have these gifts, and you have this light, and you have contributions to make, and you have answers and clarity inside you, and now it's time to listen. Because no matter what uncertainty you're going through, whether it's relationship or money or health, I know this. There is a path inside you. There is already a brilliant path inside you, but it's about learning how to listen to that. And for me, it's learning how to get out of my head and be led, right? That's what it's really about. We're living in wildly inspired times, right? But we are wildly inspired answers. We are the presence of the alternative. So I guess what I'm going to ask you is like, what stops you from listening to your inner voice, your genius, your love, your light? Because here's one thing I know is if you're not listening to your God or your soul or your heart, you are listening to somebody else. Who are you listening to? Is it the voice of the media, the voice of the culture, the voice of a parent? Some of you, I know many of you might know my personal story. I was listening to my mother, right? I was listening to my mother, yes. Yes. I knew when I was young, I knew that I wanted to write. That was my dream. And I took creative writing in high school, and the creative writing teacher was gorgeous. So this was a sign. Like, okay then, all righty. Like, okay, all things add up to good for those who serve, right? So I go home to share this fabulous news with my family that I have found my calling. But I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, to an Orthodox Jewish family. And if you came home to share, I found my calling, I want to be a writer, nobody said Mazel Tov. Nobody. It was more like, oy vey. Like, right, I basically could have said, I found my calling, I want to sell cocaine. It would have been the same thing. Because in my mother's mind, selling drugs, selling your body to the night, and being creative, they were all the same people. They were all going to live under the same bridge, let's face it, right? So my mother said something to me like, you're going to write? You're going to write? You are going to starve, you're going to write. And that was the Go For Your Dreams talk that I got, right? And then my mother, being a reasonable woman, said something like, what, you can't get a job? You'll write on the Sundays. And many of us got this same advice, didn't we? In different ways, maybe different accent, I hope. But we got that same advice in some ways. Don't do what you love. Don't do what moves you. Don't listen to that whisper that is speaking to you right now. Stay safe. Be practical. Be reasonable. And I've been running around the country speaking because what I want you to know is that the safest path you will ever take is not the safe path. The safest path you will ever take is listening to that which is within you that is in no other, right? No other. So I didn't know any of this back then, squelched all of it, went off to law school. I got accepted to Harvard Law School. Yeah. Graduated with honors from Harvard Law School. The wonders of what you can do in total fear when you are checked out. Just saying. It's amazing, amazing, and as you can imagine, my mother was very proud at that point. She was bragging in every synagogue for all she was worth. Oh, my little girl, I don't want to tell you. Let me tell you. And you may have had a situation like this in your life where you're doing what you're supposed to do or what other people think you're supposed to do, where it looks right or it looks acceptable, but it doesn't feel right. So I was practicing law. I was in a major law firm. I was on partnership track. Everything looked successful, except I felt empty, and I felt scared, and I felt like, what's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. I have what you're supposed to have, and it's not working for me. And so thank God a friend of mine at the time said something amazing, and he said, think about it. If you've been this successful doing something you don't love, what could you do with what you love? So that's what I ask everybody, right? Because to me that made sense. Like, oh my God, what could we do in this world if we were doing it from love, right? And so I finally got my guts up and I walked out of that law firm. And I walked out without a plan, without money. Everybody always thinks, oh, well, you must have been rich because you were practicing law. You must have had money. Not if you're unhappy. Not if you're unhappy. It's very expensive to be unhappy. There are therapists, there is wine, there is all kinds of things. It is an expensive proposition. Just saying. Right? So by the way, when you walk out of a situation without a plan, without money, without people thinking it's a good idea, it qualifies you to be an expert in uncertainty. Right? So that's my credential. So I often get the question, because I do a lot of private coaching for people. I help artists and entrepreneurs and visionaries and leaders and basically anybody who will pay me, I'm often asked the question, Tama, yes, I want to follow my own inner path. I want to follow what I'm meant to do, whatever that is, or how it's meant to go, but I don't know how. I don't even know what that means. I don't know the next steps. I don't know how to get from A to B to C to D, right? And here's what I want you to know. It's not a linear path. You are never going to figure this out. You are going to let it out. Right? You're not going to figure it out. You're going to let it out. One of the things I tell all my clients, I would tattoo it on them if I could. You can't plan an inspired life. You can't plan an inspired life. You're not going to see it. You can't. Your smaller brain, my smaller brain, can't imagine it because it's inspired. It's beyond what we've known. Right? But it's the courage to say, in this moment, I know this. In this moment, I know this. So when I first left, I wrote my first book, and by the way, it took me 12 years to write my first book. And I know sometimes people are encouraged by that, and sometimes people are very depressed by that. Like, oh, I liked her till then. Oh, shoot. I want those 3 easy steps now. Like, ugh, I don't have, because people are doing the math in their minds, like, oh, I don't have 12 years. But I always tell people, I think it really took me 11 years to heal. 11 years to believe in the universe. 11 years to believe I was worthy of something. 11 years to trust voices inside myself instead of what the world was telling me. And 1 year to write a book, right? So keep that in mind when you feel like you're falling behind or life isn't taking off the way you think or it's taking too long. Please keep in mind, we are doing something very, very different here. Right? We are the presence of the alternative. We are undoing fears and conditioning and belief systems, right? Exactly. It's a heck of a lot more than just a linear step by step. You're changing the way your brain chemistry works, right? So again, it may take that time, but it is worth everything you do in this lifetime. So when I was finally thinking, okay, I wrote this book, I don't know what to do with it, I don't know how to get it published. I was reading about commercial publishing and self-publishing and all this stuff, and I asked my inner voice, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And I kept hearing this inner voice, and it just kept saying, just put it in the river. Just put it in the river. Isn't that beautiful? What the heck does that mean? Come on. Like, it's not hard enough to hear an inner voice. Now it's speaking in metaphors. I live in Denver, Colorado. There are no rivers to speak of, I always tell this story at different readings, and different people have come up to me and said, well, maybe the voice meant put it on Amazon, so I don't know. But anyways, I didn't know anything. It was scary, right? I knew intuitively it meant to self-publish the book, like just to put it in the stream of life, and if it's supposed to go somewhere, it will. Right? But it was really scary to do that because it's like, I don't know anything about printing and distribution and marketing and putting your own money into it. It seems scary. And by the way, doesn't your inner voice always ask you to do the scary things, right? Like, why can't I get the lucrative one? Why doesn't that answer pop in? But I finally just decided, okay, I'm going to follow this. I followed this voice for 12 years, writing this book. I'm going to follow it all the way. And the second that you decide that you will follow it all the way, the second you make that decision, you will meet the most judgmental person. I just thought you need to know that, right? So I made this decision. I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I went to an ex-boyfriend's house for a Passover dinner. And I sat down next to this woman, and she was my mother on steroids. Bad thing. And she is pounding bad wine all night. And so she starts grilling me. She's like, so you're going to publish a book? And you know nothing about marketing? And you know nothing about distribution? And you're putting your own money into this? You're very ambitious, right? Which is like code for you're a nut. Get away from my kids. And by the way, I'd never understood the Passover ceremony. I never got it. And if you're not familiar with it, it's all about the exodus of the Jews, right? I never really got it. I got it that night. For the first time in my life, I understood that ceremony. For the first time, it was like, let my people go. I get this now. Let my people go. This makes sense. And I thought, like, what do I actually tell this woman? Do I tell her, oh, don't worry, I have a plan. I'm going to put it in a river. I'm hearing, or worse yet, do I tell her, oh, don't worry, I've been listening to an inner voice. It's really nice. It guides me. Because you know how you can say that in rooms like this, and we all support each other, and we love each other, and we think, oh, that's so cool, right? You say it to somebody normal. You try it. Go home and try it. See how well that works. Yeah. But thank God I listened. Thank God I listened, because we are always going to be asked to listen to this even though we're scared, right? I finally listened to it. I self-published the book. I got it into the world. It started moving a little bit through word of mouth. It started moving around in Denver where I lived. It hit the Denver Post bestseller list. It hit a business bestseller list. But then 4 months after I self-published the book, I got an email out of the blue that literally said, your fairy godmother has arrived. Isn't that beautiful? Your fairy godmother has arrived. If you got an email like that, wouldn't you think that was spam, right? Wouldn't you think that would be like, Russian girls are waiting for you? There's money in Nairobi, like give us your credit card number and your blood type, Make her happy tonight. I thought it was going to be spam. But actually, it was an email from a vice president of marketing and publicity for Random House. Yeah. And she had been in a career transition and had been scared and had been looking at books, and she somehow found my self-published book. And she wrote to me and said, this is the best book I have ever read on finding your calling and on living your dreams. I want to get it to a major New York house. Yeah. Which to me was like saying, I want to help you meet God, right? And she got it to the president of the company. I would have settled for the mailroom clerk personally, but she got it to the president of the company of Tarcher, part of Penguin, part of Random House, all the big names, and they bought the book. And they bought it, and they bought it, and they bought it. Not only did they buy it, I'm an unknown writer, they bought it exactly the way that it was. They kept the exact writing. I had to change maybe 10 sentences out of the entire book. They kept the title. I didn't know what I was doing. I did purple ink because I like purple. I love purple. So they kept the purple in there. I didn't know what, as an unknown writer, had I followed a conventional path of everything that everybody tells you what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it, you're never going to make it if you don't do it this way, had I done it a conventional way, I would never have ended up where I ended up, right? That's what I mean when I say you can't plan an inspired life, right? I couldn't plan, I'm going to have a meltdown for 12 years, doubting myself. This woman's going to have a meltdown at the end of 12 years, doubting herself. We're going to hook up. And that's my business plan. That's what I've got. No bank on the planet is going to sounds good to us, Miss Kieves, yes. Right? But that's what I mean. We all have this plan. We all have this code in us. We all have this. And it's about listening moment by moment to it. So I always used to tell that story because it's such a powerful story. And I always used to end with that story. But I wanna talk a little bit more about thriving through uncertainty. Because I think a lot of times we think, well, once the book deal comes in, then I'll be okay. Once the job comes in, I'll be okay. Once I resolve this diagnosis, then I'll be okay. Once I find the love of my life, I will be okay. Once I get rid of this love of my life, I will be okay. Right? It just goes on. It just goes on and on and on. And if you might notice, your certainty and your thriving is always somewhere else. It's always down the road. It's always when this happens, when that happens. The spiritual life and the real life of thriving is here and now. This is it, right? It's thriving here and it's thriving now. So it's about learning how do we do that in the face of uncertainty. And so I don't know if you've ever had this experience, I'm sure some of you have, where you've had an issue or a difficulty or a challenge and you kind of moved through it, or you had a shift and it worked out or something, and then it's back. Have you ever had that, like the same stupid issue? It's like, oh my God, have I not journaled enough on this issue? I look at, like I could take out a journal from year 2008 and just write ditto. I could save a lot of time, right? And it gets depressing sometimes, right? Because you think, oh my God, am I dealing with the same thing over and over and over? But I have an analogy in my book, Thriving Through Uncertainty, about playing a video game. Because when you play a video game, you win. You do something, it works, and you win. When you win, you go to the next level. At the next level, the enemies are harder. The rules are tougher. It doesn't make sense. You feel like you're going backwards because you're at the next level, right? So again, you may be feeling, if somebody's feeling like my life is falling apart, or it's so uncertain, or I'm struggling, or why am I so behind? It may be because you're going to a next level, right? Really that's what it is. And I think for me at the next level, I'm always asked, can you trust spirit here? Can you feel love here? Can you dare to believe again, even here? Can you, because that's what we learn, and then we go to the next level and the next level. So I experienced this really strongly when my second book came out. My second book is called Inspired and Unstoppable. And before it came out, I thought, okay, this time I want to get everything right. I want to do everything right. But you ever try to do that, like where you're going to get it, you're going to nail it. You're going to make up for every mistake you've ever made, right? Very bad recipe, but I was on it. I was gonna get it all right? So I had all these plans about, okay, this time I'm gonna get it right, and we're gonna do all this stuff before the book publishes to get it exposure for it and make the best advantage of it. Of course, everything went south. Of the person I had that was helping me went haywire. We were falling behind in deadlines. My partner got really, really ill, and so all of a sudden we were dealing with that. And so missing deadlines and opportunities, and I'm getting more and more stressed, like this is my big chance, and I'm missing it, and whatever. And I'm like, every day, which is so attractive. Just so attractive, I've been told, especially in a self-help author. Especially in a self-help author who, by the way, has just written a book called Inspired and Unstoppable. And I'm like, so one of my friends was saying, you have got to get it together. Like, you have got to get it together before that book comes out, okay? So she tells me, you better go see this healer, right? I don't know nothing about this healer. I'm like, fine, I will do anything, right? So I find out the healer lives in the mountains or whatever, so I'm driving up to the mountains. I don't know anything about it. I'm driving up to the mountains, and the healer is in a yurt, okay? I'm from New York City. I don't know from yurts. Okay, a yurt, in case you don't know, is a round tent, right? So she's sitting in the middle of a round tent on a mountain property, and I'm thinking, what have I just done, right? And so I walk in, and she's very sweet, in the real healer's voice, and she's like, what would you like to shift, I'm like, oh God, and so, and is there anything you'd like to heal? I'm like, no, I just drove up the side of a mountain because I felt like it. And so I'm crazy at that point, and so I'm like, I want this, and I want this, and you got to shift this, and you got to make this happen, and how do I get this, and I'm sure that poor woman thought, oh my God, there is not enough sage on the planet. There is just simply not enough sage on the planet to cleanse this space. I'm going to have to move. It's over, right? But thank God she gets me out of there, and she says, okay, fine, we're going to do this ritual. And she has this stream on her mountain property, and she takes me, and she has me stand in the center of the stream, right? You'll do anything when you're scared, by the way. And you'll just follow complete strangers into streams. But anyway, she has me face this way on the stream, and all the water's rushing and rushing and rushing. And she tells me, see that leaf that went by, that rock went by, that splash that went by. Those are all the opportunities you missed. That's everything you didn't get done. Like, oh, and that didn't happen. And oh, look, this didn't happen. Oh, that idea you had that was so brilliant. Oh my God, downstream, they're making $1 million from that idea. I'm like, no, no, And so it's like everything you should have done and could have done and would have done, right? And so she asks me, how are you feeling right now? My first thought is like, I need a new healer. But it was so scary, and it was like, oh my God, everything I could have done and should have done. And finally, I just felt like I am so out of control. And that's what I finally realized. I am out of control, and it is out of my control. And I just stopped. And realized, you know what? Sometimes life is out of your control. And sometimes all you can do is what you can do in that moment. And that's all I was doing was what I could do in that moment. And it was this moment of real self-forgiveness and mercy for myself because life was out of control, right? And so then she had me turn and she had me face the stream this way, and it's rushing at me and rushing at me and rushing at me. And she said, you see that rush in that stream? This is life. This is the universe. It's giving you another opportunity and more gifts and more love and more opportunities and more gifts. And do you ever think it's going to stop? More gifts and more love and more chances and so much more. And she said, do you ever think it's going to stop? That's the nature of life. It's going to keep giving to you. Isn't that amazing? It was amazing. And just... I stood there and I realized, oh my God, it's true what they say. It's not the past that creates your future. It's this present moment. It's really this present moment. And what happens for most of us is something didn't happen the way we thought or the way we wanted or what we believed in, and we get disappointed, right? I get disappointed. I get disappointed and I take my toys home. It's like, fine, I don't believe in you anymore. Like I'm very mature about it. But you get disappointed and you close your heart and you stop trying, you stop daring again. And for me, the spiritual life and the life of thriving is the life of being in the present moment and choosing again, and choosing again, and choosing again, and giving and choosing again, right? You're just, right, choosing again and giving yourself another chance. Can you give yourself one more chance to believe that it's still working, right? Can I choose to believe again? Can I trust love instead of fear one more time? For me, that's the life of thriving, and that's always the practice, right? So I'm going to read you something from my book, Thriving Through Uncertainty. I mentioned A Course in Miracles. I've taught it for like 30 years, and so yeah, it rocks for me. And so there's a line in the Course in Miracles that says, "Who you think you are is a belief to be undone." And what that means is the part of you that thinks you're too old, or you're too young, or you don't have the education, or your health is never going to resolve, or the money is never going to come, who you think you are is a belief to be undone. Because there is a power and a presence and a mastery and a genius that is in you, of you, all around you, right? Thank you. So who you think you are is a belief to be undone, right? So I'm going to read you this section, and it's a little bit about that video game that I was talking about. And I put the bookmark at the wrong section. Haha, that's handy. Let's just pretend I'm calm. Okay, I got it. Uh, A Course in Miracles teaches that who you think you are is a belief to be undone. You think you can be stopped. You think you can be diminished. You think you can fail. But that's the game. You can never lose. You already have everything you need. You have this crazy alchemical love within you, and it's yours to give in any situation, which changes every situation and even changes you as you give it. You do not walk alone. Will you choose to listen to the disconnected, smallest version of yourself or the highest allegiance of your spirit? You have a choice. Choose love. Choose again. Choose now. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, thank you. I want to end with a final quote. It's attributed to Jesus from the Gnostics. It's one of my favorite quotes in the world. And it says, "If you bring forth that which is within you, that which is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth that which is within you, that which is within you will destroy you." It's a little gift of guilt from my people for the holidays. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Woo! Thank you. Thank you. So, I want to tell you a quick thing about the workshop. Workshop is here at 2 o'clock. I so want you here. If you think the talk is good, the workshop's better, and I mean that, because it's very interactive and we do exercises. If you've had any uncertainty, any unclarity, I am here right now from Denver. Come join us. Be part of this energy. It's the energy in the room that shifts everything, because I know if we can shift your energy and your consciousness, you'll have different ideas. You'll have different solutions. That's what happens. Different things come to you. So anything that's going on for you, please come and get some solutions, some love, some conviction. Also, if you need to come late, I'm fine with that. If you need to leave early, I'm fine with that. I'd love you to get some of it. So, by the way, how I said before that, you can't plan an inspired life. I know some of you are thinking, oh, I wish I could come, but I have plans. Well, you can cancel those plans, because you can't plan an inspired life. But I can plan your inspired life. Right? I'd like you to be there. So anyway, please join us. Tell your friends. The other thing I just want to mention very quickly is please join me by my table. Make sure you get on Facebook with me. Make sure you get on. I have a newsletter that comes out once a month with a monthly message to keep you going. We have digital fortune cookies that come out, because we are creating a worldwide tribe of those of us who are daring in this lifetime to live from love instead of fear. And we need, yes. And I also want to do a shout out while I'm here. I really, really want to do a shout out to First Unity and to Temple Hayes for bringing me here, and for this community, for this incredible community, because for me, it is places like this that is Mecca. It is places like this that we are making the difference, and we are the people who are changing this world. And by the way, stop watching the news and be the news. Thank you. I'm so grateful to all of you for all your work. Thank you, thank you, thank you.